Hello guys, this is your friend from ninjavibeZ and we are back with a new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Was Banished and Returned as the Uzumaki Emperor with a Genturi Queen Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Fire Country Konoha Naruto's apartment. It had been 2 days since the mission. His team had failed. They had gotten intel from a now-deceased Akatsuki member called Sasori about an informant he was supposed to be meeting with at the Heaven and Earth Bridge. Kabuto turned out to be working with Orochimaru. The two groups had fought Team Yamato against Orochimaru and Kabuto, or should I say him against Orochimaru. He had lost control. It was just for a second, but that was all the greatest of demons. Kyobi no Kitsu needed. He had hurt his friend Sakura with nothing more than a swipe of a crimson tail. She had forgiven him. After all, he didn't have control over himself when wielding the Kyobi's chakra beyond 3 tails of power. When the battle was over, Orochimaru and Kabuto fled with Team Yamato in pursuit. They tracked them to a Odo base and had tried to find their old friend Sasuke. After the 3 long years of separation between them, they had finally found him. But the moment he realized who they were, he tried to kill them all. That's when it happened. It was odd, but Sasaki had managed to enter his mindscape and was literally standing in the chamber where the Kaio's cell was located and forcefully suppressed the demon within. Before this, however, the Kyobi had spoke to him, comparing his sharing eyes to that of a man named Uchiha Madara. After Sasaki, Orochimaru and Kabuto had left. Both Sakura and Naruto had broken down seeing what their old friend had turned into. Now that he was home, however, his mind kept on wandering back to that one single name that the Kyobi had uttered. How would the Kyobi even know the name of Anuchiha? There was also that nagging voice at the back of his mind telling him that he had heard the name somewhere before and it wasn't Kyobi. His blue eyes flashed with recognition. If he was an Uchiha, then he had to have been a citizen of Konoha and as such would be listed in the village archives in the library. Slapping his jumpsuit on, he dashed out of the door, not caring about anything other than finding some answers to the questions he had. He entered the library, not even noticing that the librarian who had always turned him away 3 years ago let him go in. He walked along the aisles looking for the U section. It was surprisingly small. He traced his fingers from book to book looking for the name Moa. And that's when he found it wasn't a biography. It was a history book detailing the Shoai Hogue's reign from start to finish. What got his attention though was the image of both Ma and the Shoai on the cover facing one another like they were opposites. He took the book over to one of the empty tables before he opened it and began to read. He thought the book was amazing. Now he knew where he heard that name before, which was pretty obvious to him since it was a part for the Academy written exam. But some things in this book weren't in the Academy textbooks. With each passing page, he was getting closer to finding out the answer to his question. He turned the next page and nearly fell out of his chair in shock. Printed on the page was a very illustrated picture. Amma standing atop the head of Kyobi no Kitsu while they both were trying to kill the Shoai Hokage and thus creating a rather large valley. He remembered where he had seen it. The valley where 2 statues now stood as a monument to that battle. The Valley of the End. According to the book, Madara had summoned Kaiu to help him kill Senju Hashiyama at the place now known as the Valley of the End. He couldn't grasp the idea as to wanting to summon a demon to kill someone. It would be like making a deal with the devil, or in this case, a demon. It made no sense, and yet he was looking at proof of such a thing. Why? He kept asking the question. Not getting an answer, the blonde stood and put the book back, knowing he had an answer to his first question. But this has given me another question that I need an answer to. Why did you attack Konoha Kyobi? Uzumaki. Nar knew no matter how much he hated the fox. He knew that the Kobe was sentient and didn't do anything without reason. But what were his reasons? Fire Country. Konoha Hospital. Hideki Kakashi leaned back on his hospital bed with his one normal eye open reading a small orange book. Suddenly he heard the door click signifying someone had entered. 3 someones, the 3 stood in front of his bed and he looked up at them, not lowering his book. I heard about your last mission and about Sasaki too, the copy nin said slowly in a saddened voice, seeing both Naruto's and Sakura's faces drop. We can't bring him back as he is now. We're simply not strong enough. Nar hated to admit it, but he knew it was true. Kakashi nodded. Then you'll just have to become stronger faster. Yeah, but how? Sakura was the one who asked. Kakashi smiled under his mask. Do you think I've just been sitting in here reading? I've been planning your next move from the moment Yamato told me. He shifted his gaze over to Nar. In all honesty, you're the only one who can do this. After all, the Kage Bunch no Jutsu does download its memories into the user when dispelled. The 3 looked at him surprised and he chuckled. In the right hands, it is the ultimate training tool even compared to sharing, though it is impractical because of the chakra requirements. But I don't have that problem because of Kaiu. Nar gulped slightly. Then why didn't Erozin tell me about that little trick? The human mind isn't evolved enough to handle so much information at once before the age of 15. That's why Jara-sama never told you about it. It is a kinjutsu for a reason. Kakashi explained. He then looked directly at the blonde and asked, What do you say, Nar? The only remaining genin of the Konoha 11 simply stared slightly numb. He couldn't feel anything. Going over everything that had happened over the last 3 weeks. Gar dying only to be brought back. Fighting Akatsuki. Fighting Orochimaru Sasaki. Your eyes reek of a chakra far fouler than my own. It reminds me of Uchiha. Nar shook himself before coming to a decision. I decline. The room's other 3 occupants froze. Even Sai Naruto had just said no to training with Kakashi, something he had wanted 3 years ago and never got. What did you just say, Nar? I said no. The blonde genin gave him an even stare. I don't need any more power. What I need is answers, and I'll get them one way or another. The room's temperature had suddenly just dropped, and he made for the door. I'm not going to play around anymore. He was gone a moment later and everyone was just staring in disbelief at where he had just been. It was then that Time Asuma entered the room and Ino smiled at them. Hey guys, what's with the faces? Making his way through town towards the Hokage Tower, Naruto entered the building when he arrived and the receptionist told him to go on up since the staff pretty much knew the Hokage cared for the boy like a son. When he got up the stairs, he reached the office door and knocked. When he didn't hear anything, he knocked again. She's in a meeting. Nar turning, he saw Shizune holding some papers. Is there anything I can do for you? You can tell me when she'll be out, he half asked. The older woman smiled at him and waved him down the hall. She should be finished in about 10 minutes. You can wait outside if you want. It's just down the hall on your right. Nar smiled at her and nodded. Thanks, Shizune Nikan. He bade her goodbye and sat down outside of the council chambers. It was silent for a few minutes before a voice shouted from inside the room, which he quickly identified as Sununate's. What? Pressing his ear against the wall, he listened in. Please understand, Hokage-sama. The boy has become a threat to the village. And with the recent attack on the case cage, there is no doubt that we will come under attack if the boy remains here. I know that, but why exile him? What the heck are you people thinking? If he goes out there, then Akatsuki will. That was definitely Sununade. Nowadays Sama. We know you care for the boy, but village security comes first, so he will be exiled instead of executed. A smug voice cut in. Not a chance in hell. I won't allow it. Sununade yelled in anger. Uzumaki Nar is a ninja and so falls under my jurisdiction. The council cannot dictate to me decisions concerning my shinobi. No, but with the daimyo backing the council. Weaken was the sickening banshee-like voice of a certain pink-haired councilwoman. The order is already given. Uzumaki Naruto is hereby banished from Konoha within 1 week. Nar let his hands drop. He could feel something wet falling down his face. Bringing his hands up to touch it, he saw that it was tears. He was crying. He didn't need to hear anymore. He just ran. Ran through the tower, ran through the crowds, ran all the way home. Not even registering what he was doing. He began to seal his things in several scrolls and put them in pockets he had inside his jumpsuit. Once he was done, he stood up and looked out of the window at the Hokage monument before he clenched his fists and looked over at the picture of Team 7 from 3 years ago. He didn't look at it very long and put it face down before exiting the apartment, making sure to turn off the lights and lock it. Making his way towards the gate, he suddenly froze. Where am I going? What do I do now that I'm exiled? A memory from his training trip played through his mind. Flashback. No jutsu begin. Even I can tell hatred is spreading. Jiraiya said sitting in a lotus position. Hatred? Nar asked confused. The Gamma Sinan scratched the back of his head. I want to do something about it, but I don't know what, but I believe that the day will come when people truly understand each other. Nar smiled, trying not to feel overwhelmed. That sounds hard. Jiraiya shrugged. If I can't find the answer, it will be up to you to do it. Nar gave him his best salute. Okay, if that's what you want, I can't refuse. Flashback. No jutsu. And oh yeah, that was the last thing Erosen asked me to do for him. He smiled at the memory before turning back towards monument. And just like had done 3 years ago, he raised his fist towards the fourth face and clamped it shut. I'll be back. That's a promise. He turned and continued walking, noticing it was already night as he passed the 2 sleeping guards. Now, where do I start? I really don't have a destination, do I? Damn. Whirlpool Country, came a voice he knew very well. What do you want, Kobe? I told you I'm not going to use your power anymore. Nar growled back. The great demon chuckled and spoke again. Ever heard the phrase, knowledge is power? If you want answers, then go to the Whirlpool Country. You'll find your answers there. All right, I'll bite. Why Whirlpool Country? I haven't even heard of the place. Nar yelled in thought. You're abandoned, alone in the darkness now. Yet again, the Whirlpool Country is an island off of the coast of Water Country surrounded by hundreds of small whirlpools that make traveling by ship to get there impossible. Kalubi chuckled darkly. And why should I head there? For that matter, why are you helping me? Nar has only ever trusted 3 people wholeheartedly in his short life. Serbi, and Jiraiya. No matter what, you do not trust a fox. Putting his body on autopilot, he entered his mindscape and appeared at the demon's cage. I want an answer. It was a demand, not a request. Kobe chuckled, looking down on the boy. Since you aren't going to use my chakra anymore, I have to use my plan B. Nar took a step back as a large cylinder shape rose from the ground. It was a scroll. This is a summoning contract for his Kitsum. Nar just stared at it for a good few minutes before looking back up at the fox. What's the catch? I get my freedom, Caillou said simply. Not going to happen. The Yandai may put you in here to stop you from causing more death and destruction, and I sure as hell am not going to set you loose so you can go on a rampage again. Nar bellowed at him in anger. If that's the price for that scroll, then you can take your offer and shush. Shut up and let me explain. The giant Kitsun flared his chakra. I would gain my freedom, but I would also become a boss summon of the Kitsen contract and as such have to obey its laws, one of which is I have to follow your orders until the day you die. I don't know, Kit, where would you be without me at the moment? The great demon asked his jailer. Living a nice and peaceful life, Naruto deadpanned. Caillou chuckled at that. Okay, you got me there, but where's the fun in that? A small smile crept across the blonde's face. Well, a little fight now and then does make life a little more interesting. The two shared a good laugh at that before Naruto looked up at the demon. Seriously, jokes aside, I need to know. Will you attack anyone I care for? Kyobi closed his eyes and spoke. I can't without your orders. Good, because if I find out you're playing me, I won't wait for Akatsuki to come and take you away. I'll just kill you outright, and that's a promise. They both knew he would find some way to carry out his threat. Caillou's gaze unwavered as the blonde signed his name in the scroll. By the way, he looked at the previous name in the scroll. Whatever happened to this Uchiha Ma? Caillou's only response was, your answers are in Whirlpool Country. Just before Naruto was about to leave, the demon spoke again. Your elemental affinity is wind, by the way. Try using your chakra to use the wind and cut through something a leaf should do. Why? Nar asked, turning back. Because if you're going to be my summoner, then you have to be the best. I won't accept anything less than elemental manipulation as a good start towards being the best. The blonde was suddenly blasted out of his mindscape. Make your own jutsu while you're at it. Your arsenal is pathetic. And so the next few days, Naruto spent training with the clone method while the fox gave him occasional advice if that's what you want to call it. Fire Country. Konoha Hokage's office. You wanted to see us Hokage-sama. Turned from the window and looked over the many faces in her office. Yes. She spoke in a neutral tone. I have a mission for you all. Hokage-sama, shouldn't Nar be here for this if it's a joint team mission? Sai asked politely. The room suddenly got colder. Naruto's gone. Everyone of the Konoha 11 and their sensei were confused by that. So she decided to clear things up. The council in their infinite wisdom have went over my head to the daimyo himself and gotten Naruto exiled. The entire group was shocked by that. They're using this latest incident with Sasaki as a means to get him exiled. And they succeeded. Because of Kalobi, Shikamaru asked, and none of the younger generation seemed shocked. So, you all know it wasn't a question. Half of the village figured it out a while ago, and most seemed to have gotten over the Kyobi attack, Shikamaru sighed before continuing. Troublesome. So, the council went behind your back to get him out of the village. If it wasn't for me, they would have executed him right then and there. Ace spoke the entire truth and that actually shocked a few of the people in the room. She smirked suddenly though. But that's not all. Apparently the brat's gone missing. Nobody can find him and he isn't supposed to leave for another 2 days according to my Anbu. He's no longer in Konoha. He's already left. Ino asked confused. When? Not sure. I've had Jiraiya out looking for him in case Akatsuki has captured him. The Hokage answered, shaking her head. Anyways, your mission is to find him and bring him back. Otherwise, I will have no choice but to mark him as a new canon. He's going to be exiled anyways. Why bring him back just to exile him? Shoji asked, confused as to why they should bring him back if that's what was going to happen. Politics. I will be forced to send Hunter Nins after him if he is officially classified as a new canon. Sununade replied. Wow, 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 why are we talking like this? Surely there's something you can do to get him reinstated. Sununade Shisho. Sakura spoke trying to calm down. Please no, not another one. With the daimyo backing the council, there's nothing I can do. Fire Lightning Country Border. Uzumaki Naruto was a lot of things. headstrong, stubborn, half-crazy, and has been known to switch between being a genius and an idiot at random. But there is one thing he is known for being that truly defines who he is. He's insanely lucky. It had been 3 weeks since he left Konoha. 3 weeks since he left the one place he had always called home. And in those 3 weeks, with the help of shadow clones and Kyobi, he had progressed more than he did in almost 3 years prior. He still had a long way to go. But at least now he felt like he was progressing again. He was nearing the end of the seemingly endless forest towards his next destination and finally exited the forest onto a giant open field that stretched for miles. You know, if I've ever had one other dream other than becoming Hokage, it would be to see the whole world. Now, that's a dream I don't mind, he heard the Kaiu mutter before feeling him curling up to go to sleep. Wake me up if you need me. That's when he felt it. Whirling around, he spotted a squad of 14 nins exit the forest behind him, all wearing a konahiti. I think you should stay awake for this, fox. That's probably a good idea. The Kyobi's eyes snapped open as he opened his senses. Nar recognized the group consisting of the rest of the Konoha 11, Kakashi, Asuma, Yamato, and Guy. What are you guys doing here? Nar, what are you thinking leaving the village? Kakashi half asked, half yelled. The blonde cocked his head to the side. They were going to exile me anyways. I thought I'd get a head start on those root ambu the council will send after me. That doesn't matter. You need to come with us so you won't be marked as a new cannon. Kakashi explained. Nar just shook his head. No can do, Kakashi-sensei. I'm heading in the other direction. Nar the copy nin warned. This is where we part ways. Sensei, for better or worse. The blonde settled into a fighting stance. If you want me, then you'll have to use force because I'm not going back with you. Enough of this, Akamaru. Heia charged forward with his loyal companion right beside him. He jumped and spun around, creating a miniature tornado, followed shortly by Akamaru. Gatsuga Heia stopped. It's too dangerous. Asuma shouted after them. You know you're no match for them all, kid, even if you have improved greatly. Kaiu spoke in his mind. I know, but there are only 3 forms of facing an enemy. Fight, hide, or run. I can't fight them all. There's nowhere to hide, and they'll just chase me if I run. Naruto spoke in thought as he watched. The two moved like a drill towards him. You'll have to run. But first, you must take out your enemy's trackers so they can't pursue you, the great demon informed him. As the 2 spinning man tornadoes closed in on the blonde, he started charging 2 randomly contained spinning balls in both his hands. I get it, but I don't want to kill any of them. You don't have to. Just don't screw up. With that, the link went silent. Just when the pair was a few feet away, he raised both chakra balls and hit them both while they were in midair. Renangan. The 2 were suddenly spinning in the other direction before being blown back by the jutsu. They were sent crashing into a nearby tree and boulder. Ka Akamaru Ino shouted, but the 2 were unmoving. That idiot. That was close. Nar crouched down and settled into a taijutsu position. I know it isn't field tested, but I don't stand a chance without it. Taking a deep breath, he started channeling chakra to every corner of his body. Here we go. Guy Lee, go in fast and close to take him down. Both green beasts nodded and shot forward on Kakashi's order. Guy went in low and made to kick Naruto's midsection only for him to narrowly dodge and Naruto to throw a punch in retaliation. The punch was barely a graze, but it sent Guy reeling back in pain. At that time, Lee came in behind him and landed a punch to his back, but hurt his hand upon impact. Nar grunted in pain before dropping to the ground and sweeping Lee's legs out from under him. With the younger of the 2 green beasts on the floor, he brought up his foot and then brought it down on Lee. Lee let out a yelp of pain before Naruto rolled away with Guy descending right above with a downward him. The blonde caught the kick with both of his hands and he pulled him down before punching him in the chest, making him hit the ground with a loud tremor. Both of the green-clad ninja were barely moving and Naruto was starting to feel exhausted. Damn it. Only used it for a few seconds and already feeling fatigued. The blonde thought as he saw both ninjas start to rise again. I can't last much longer. Got to think of a plan and fast. Meanwhile, Kakashi was examining the engagement with his sharing. He's channeling chakra to every part of his body and constantly keeping it moving. Why? That's when he saw it. Both Guy and Lee had the image of a spiral on the areas where they had made contact with Nar and the copy nin's eyes suddenly flashed with recognition. Don't tell me he formed a resendent around his entire body. Guy Lee, fall back. Close combat is too dangerous with him. Both ninja complied and retreated to his side where Sakura and Ino started healing their wounds. No chance that they're going to go away. Nar asked in thought as he saw Kakashi and Shikamaru begin to analyze him. I guess not. You created a taijutsu style which uses the Renin with your understanding of a tailed shroud, didn't you? Kakashi asked with curiosity. This allows you to do more damage to your opponent, even if it's just a graze, and also protects you from physical attacks as well. Nar nodded slowly before explaining. I call it the Renin. And for the record, it's not finished. I was going to infuse my wind elemental affinity into it to make it more effective and create the futon rankin. Spiraling fist, Kakashi muttered under his breath. It seems he's trying to surpass you, sensei. Going through hand seals, he called out, Kaden Guakaku no Jutsu. He exhaled a massive fireball at the blonde. Can't dodge. I guess I'll see just what the Renin is made of. Nar thought as the fireball hit him dead center. Please tell me he survived that. Please don't be dead, Nar. Kakashi thought in sweat and sighed in relief as he saw the blonde step out of the flames with a white semi-transparent shield around him. I see it also protects you from certain jutsus as well. It suddenly flickered out of existence before becoming invisible again to a certain extent, though if it's hit with enough force or with constant attacks then it will shut down quickly. He added mentally. The chakra requirements for something like that must be enormous. I can understand the demon fox's shroud because it's powered by 9 tails of chakra, but for a human like you, it must be taxing your reserves. The copy nin spoke knowingly. Nar nodded and smirked. I've always had abnormally large reserves, sensei. Why do you think I failed the genin exam 3 times? He felt the Renin shred a few of Shino's bugs that had tried to grab onto him. Without another word, he shot forward, intent on knocking out the one person in the squad who posed a direct threat given the information he now held. Shikamaru. Seeing this, Shikamaru sent his shadow at the blonde only for him to dodge while Yumoto appeared behind him holding a spear of wood. Naru got in close, forcing Yamato to back off while Sai moved to face the blonde. The Rutan pulled out his sword and tried to stab him, but it was merely deflected and appeared to be turning red from the constant friction of the rankin. When he knocked Sai away with a single blow, Neji and Hinata jumped in his way and charged in close. Sadly for them, their Jukin was constantly being deflected by the rankin and both were knocked back when 2 swift punches. Before Shikamaru could react, Naruto vanished in something akin to a flash of yellow and was suddenly inside his defenses. Nar slammed a fully formed Rinnegan into his gut, blasting him back until he hit the bottom of a nearby hill and fell into unconsciousness. Turning quickly, Nar caught the knives Asuma was wielding against him. Enhanced with wind blades, the blonde could feel the strain of the wind slashing at his defense before he shrugged the older man, often pulling him around to deliver a roundhouse kick to his midsection. Shinton no Jutsu. He heard before he felt a presence entering his mind. Well, At least this time he had no problem blasting the intruder out. It wasn't a sharing user after all. Get out of my head. Ino fell backwards as she was blown back into her body only to be caught by Choji. Nar could now feel his chakra reserves almost gone and sighed as he shut down the Renin. Damn, out of power. Kakashi's sharing notified him that the powerful defense was no longer active and called out, "Your barrier is down, Naruto. Come quietly and you will not be harmed." Nar was panting slightly and looked around at the still conscious Konoha forces. Kakashi, Shino, Choji, Tenten, and Sakura. I need to get out of here now. He smiled like a fox. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei, but I'm not finished yet. He concentrated almost all of his remaining chakra into creating 2 Rinindans in the palms of his hands. Nar, come with us right now or we'll be forced to use drastic measures. Kakashi warned and concentrated chakra into his hand, encasing it in lightning rari. Nar looked at him in his jutsu. Sadly, you'd go that far just to follow in order. When Kakashi didn't answer, he continued, you know, I remember the first lesson you taught us. The only lesson you ever really taught us. Those who disobey the rules are trash. But those who abandon their friends are worse than trash. You're such a hypocrite. He closed his eyes for one moment, seeing the look of slight shock and horror at what he just said crossed Kakashi's eyes. Goodbye, Konoha. Thanks for the memories. He slammed both chakra balls into the ground. Rinangan. Dust shot up, blanketing the entire area in a cloud of smoke. Smoke screen. Kakashi shouted, unable to see though it even with the sharing. Shanpo no jutsu though no one could see it. There were several flashes of yellow as Naruto Flash stepped out of the area. Futon Dappa Kakashi exhaled a large blast of air and dissipated the dust cloud, revealing that Nar was nowhere in sight. He got away. Can anyone track him? Kane and Hinata are down. Shino reported. My bugs were unable to grab onto him. Kakashi looked around at his badly beaten team, noticing Sakura and Ino were doing what they could to heal the wounded. But Sakura's behavior worried him greatly. She hadn't spoken throughout the entire encounter. He was worried that she might have cracked, thinking yet another one of her teammates had left the village, even if he was exiled, or that it was indirectly her fault. Patch up the wounded, and then we'll return to Konoha. I doubt we'd be able to find Nar now that he knows we're after him. Kakashi sighed, putting his hit eye back into place over his left eye. Why? Choji asked. Kakashi narrowed his eyes at him. Because though he dresses in bright orange, he is almost impossible to locate when he doesn't want to be found. How do you think he pulled off his pranks all of the time? Lightning Country unknown location. Nar finally stopped using his new jutsu which he had created a few days ago after he had remembered his battle against Gar. He used Kyobi's chakra to execute a superpowered jump up to where Gar had stood. When he stopped using it, he felt almost completely drained and collapsed on the ground, feeling for the first time in years depleted. Took you long enough. He heard Kyobi chuckle under his breath. The Renin requires way too much power to maintain. Well, at least I've field tested the thing now. Nar thought as raising his head slightly from the ground. Hopefully, this is far enough away. It took a full 30 minutes to recover his chakra before he was able to move again and he sat up straight. He stood a moment later and for once in his life was thankful that Kyobi was sealed inside him because it regenerated his chakra at an alarming rate. You need to hurry and get out of here before anyone else shows up. Kyobi spoke more as an order than a suggestion. He bit his thumb drawing blood and made several hand seals before slamming his blooded hand into the ground. Kuchio's no jutsu. With a poof of smoke, there suddenly stood in front of him a horse-sized five-tailed fox. I guess the Kitsun contract was the real deal after all. The fox looked over at him for a moment before speaking in a feminine tone. You must be the new summoner. It wasn't a question. Nar scratched the back of his head nervously and explained, yeah, that's me. Do you mind if I get a ride? Sakino simply stared at him before nodding. I am Sakino. No kits. Father speaks highly of you. How far do you wish to travel? The blonde pointed up at a far-off mountain to the base of that mountain. That's a day's journey at least. Another week's to get up it. Are you sure? Sakino commented. Nar nodded. It would take 3 times longer to go around it. Sakino sighed. Very well. Climb on and well get moving. He pulled himself up to mount the fox like you would a horse, and she spoke again. Fast or slow? Air. Fast. Nar half asked. Okay, she said simply as her tails wrapped around themselves. You might want to hang on. Sakino looked over her shoulder at him and grinned like a fox. The end of her tail suddenly caught fire and exploded outwards away from them. Step 1. With the sound of an explosion echoing behind them, the fox took off at insane speeds towards the mountain, making Naruto have trouble breathing. Note to self, never ask her to go fast. Then did I fail to mention she likes high speeds? You could almost feel the amusement in the demon lord's voice. She's your daughter. Nar shot back. Lightning Country Kumo Southern Gate. It took a full week to make it to the Kumo, which was situated on the mountain summit. Tsukino had returned to the Summon Realm for her request once they reached the bottom of the mountain. Over the week while he had been climbing up it, Naruto had been experimenting with adding wind to his various forms of Rinong. He hadn't got it down yet, but he was close. Very close. Damn it, it's not good enough, he thought, looking at his worn-out arm as he approached the village gates. I really need a bath and a nice comfy bed. I really hate bathing in rivers and sleeping on the ground. They had better have ramen. Halt. That's far enough. State your name and your business here. Nar was pulled out of his thoughts by one of the 3 chunin on guard duty. I'm Uzumaki Nar. Well, I just want to stop here tonight. I'm just passing through really and I should be gone tomorrow, the blonde explained. The chunin looked him over a few times before nodding. All right, follow me to the Rakuge's office. You will of course be watched by an Ambu at all times as per protocol. Nar sighed in relief before nodding led the way Chunin-san. As he followed the chunin through the village, he noticed right away the absence of any muttering and any hateful glares directed at him. People were going about their business. Stores all around the area were abuzz with activity and there were even children running around playing. Kumo itself was several large clusters of platforms, buildings and towers all over the mountain's peak with the Rakuge Tower at the very top. All of this was interlocked in one way or another and it was one of the largest hidden villages in the elemental countries rivaling Konoha in sheer size. That's when Naruto dropped the question he had wanted to ask since arriving. Do you know any good ramen stands? The chunin stopped dead in his tracks and he turned fearfully. Don't tell me you. What? Like ramen? Of course. It's a gift from the gods. You could see the sparkles in Naruto's eyes. Sweet Kami, not another one, the chunin muttered, shaking his head and shivering in fear. He knew someone that had a very large addiction to ramen. Now he had met another. They're both blonde, too. Proceeding through the village, they were nearing the Rakuge Tower when suddenly all of Kumo shook with several explosions echoing in the distance. What the hell was that? Nar asked, getting his bearings. The chunin didn't answer, but when he saw some smoke in the distance, he took off toward it. Hey, wait up, Nar shouted running after him, noting that the Ambu that was supposed to be tailing him wasn't there. The two arrived at the demolished section of the market district which looked like it had been through a war. What happened here? The chunin looked around in horror, seeing other Kumo nins helping people out of the rubble. He spotted someone wearing a jonin jacket pinned under a support beam and dashed over to him. Eric-sensei. He knelt down beside the man who was his teacher. Are you all right, sensei? The man now identified as Eric grunted in pain, but nodded. I've had better days. One moment and I'll get you out. The Tunin lifted the support beam with Naruto's help, allowing the Jonin to get out from under it. What happened here, sir? There were two of them. He gritted out with a WSE. They appeared out of nowhere wearing black cloaks with red clouds and attacked Yugito-sama. He winced a bit more. Yugito-sama lured them away into the sewer system towards the central hub directly below us. She blew out the hatches and the valves to prevent them escaping in us from interfering. That explains the explosions. The Tunin clenched his fists. She's all alone in there. While this was going on, Nar was deep in thought. Black cloaks with red clouds. Definitely Akatsuki, but that would mean this Yugo would be a Genturiki. I guess it's true what they say. Enemy of my enemy is my friend. How far down are we talking? Nar asked, interrupting the two nins. They looked at each other before turning back. Just under a mile. We don't have the tools or the time to drill down there, though, Eric answered honestly. Nar didn't answer, but instead charged a ball of spinning chakra just under a mile. Might be close, but I'll do what I can. He slammed it into the ground, burying it in deep and causing it to accelerate downwards, creating a hole in the deep into the ground. Rosin, he turned to the two once he was done, and said, catch up when you can. With that, he jumped down into the hole, disappearing from view. As he fell, Naruto was in a deep discussion with a certain fox. So, any idea which Genturiki this is? I might have an idea, Nibi. No, Nekomata. She's my mate, Caillou answered, mused. Nar almost fainted at that. What? You're married. How the hell did that happen? Do not think so lowly of me as to go by the human's term. She's my maid, not my wife. Caillou growled in anger. You mean like soulmate? Nar asked, trying to understand the concept. Yes, you hairless ape, Caillou replied mockingly. Nar resisted the urge to hurt the demon lord. But I thought Sakino-chan was your daughter. She wasn't a cat. She gets her striking good looks from me while she gets Nibi-chan's personality. You could almost say Kaobi was proud of that. You don't say, Nar thought dryly. Lightning Country, Kumo Sewer System, Central Hub. Far below the surface of the village, a giant purple cat made of fire with two tails, was hit by a monstrous blast of wind and water from a man covered in black web-like strings and four masks. His partner, a silver-haired man wielding a scythe in his right arm, watched as the fire cat was suddenly destroyed, leaving a blonde-haired girl of 15 years of age crashing hard into a pile of rubble. She groaned from the impact and tried to stand panting hard while still watching her enemy. Currently, Niuhito was in a state of mental shock. The Nibino Nekomata, her most powerful weapon and possibly the only reason she was still alive, was just defeated. It was ludicrous to even think a human could defeat it, even if she could only turn into a miniature demon cat. It should have been impossible, but yet it was true. And after nearly an hour of fighting these people, if that's what you call them, she was reaching her limit. Just give up, little girl. You may have destroyed one of my hearts with that transformation of yours, but you can't win this. And you know it. The one she had found out to be named Kuzu spoke in an almost amused tone. And for the first time since her mom died, Yugo was afraid. She gulped and narrowed her eyes, running through hand seals. Rai Bunshin no Jutsu. 15 lightning clones appeared at her side in a spark of lightning which shot out from her body. You won't get me. Hedon cracked a smirk. You're about to die, little girl. Jashin-sama commands it. He shot forward and 5 clones moved to intercept him. Kuzu shifted to long-range mode and focused his most attack on her. Futon, Atsugai, Kaden, Zukoku. The combined heat and force of the two jutsu was essentially like an incinerator. The lightning clones were destroyed easily enough, and when the dust cleared, both Kuzu and Hedon went on edge when they couldn't find their cornered prey. Kuki. Kuzu heard the shout and looked up just as Yugo swung her fire-covered arm down on him. Got to dodge, Kuzu thought, trying to move out of the way. She sliced her entire arm though one of his heart and he skidded away clutching his now missing water heart masked you. Damn it, I missed. She muttered under her breath and looked down in surprise as she felt a chain wrap around her. With a tug she was hurled backwards by Hedon crashing hard into the nearby wall. Not bad little girl, but not good enough. He charged forward, intent on finishing her then and there. Yugo watched him approach and closed her eyes, awaiting the pain to come. It didn't. She opened her eyes and looked up, seeing someone standing between her and the seemingly immortal man holding his outstretched weapon which had been aimed at her neck. You know it's not very gentlemanlike to hit a lady. Hedon looked him over in shock before was on the receiving end of a monstrous punch to the jaw. He was hurled across the cavern before finally crashing hard beside Kakuzu with his scythe. You Akatsuki bastards are really starting to piss me off. The newcomer made a hand seal and two clones poofed into existence beside him. Kage Bunshin Nojutsu reinforcements. Yugito started channeling chakra to heal her wounds with medical enjutsu and looked up at the one who had just saved her. Who the hell are you? The original turned to look at her and she could clearly see his face. Now he had blonde hair held back by a konohit eye, blue serene eyes and 6 distinguishing marks on his face reminiscent of whiskers. We'll talk later, but right now I need to know what these guys are capable of. He spoke and she nodded, leaning back against the wall. The one with the scythe, his name is Hedon. And though he doesn't use enjutsu or genjutsu, he is extremely deadly at close range with that weapon of his. If he draws blood from you with that, then he'll be able to curse you and kill you without breaking a sweat, Yugo explained. The other is named Kakuzu. He's a bounty hunter of sorts from Takagakure who kills for money. He's a mid-range fighter who has 5 hearts he's taken from other people to prolong his life and has also fought the Shodai Hokage. That last bit of information scared Naruto slightly. He uses all 5 elements, though he can only use 3 now since I destroyed 2 of his hearts. When you say hearts, he trailed off. Yugito nodded. He's died twice, but he still needs to die 3 more times before he stays dead. Nar turned to his clones. You heard her. Yeah, we got it. 2 down, 3 to go. The 2 clones shot forward. Don't just go charging in. Yugo shouted at his stupidity. The 2 clones were easily dispatched by Kuzu's web thread stabbing them. Shadow clones will not help you here. Kaiu Genturiki. Yugito looked up in surprise, noting that the man was talking to the one that had saved her, Kyobi Ginuriki. Is he 1, 2? Oh, I finally get to see my Kyobi again. Yugito suddenly had a headache from her inner demon squealing. Naruto's eyes became slitted and he made a hand seal again. Kage Bunchan, no jutsu. 8 clones poofed into existence as Hedon landed at his partner's side. Not that old trick again, Hedon smirked. His smirk didn't last long. An earth-shattering bell-like screech filled the cavern, forcing Yugito to cover her ears as she watched Naruto's clones focus their chakra to the original's hand, spinning its chakra constantly in all directions. She saw it take the form of a ball with a small series of blades appearing from the center of it. He held up his hand into the air above his head and suddenly those blades expanded into the shape of a shuriken. Futon Recentrican Naruto said its name Hedon. Kuzu looked over getting his attention. It was then that Hedon noticed his partner was sweating slightly. Don't let that jutsu hit you. Even for us, if either of us gets hit by that, it would mean certain death. I've finally found someone who can kill me. Hedon spoke almost gleefully. Nar and his clones shot forward with his clones taking the lead. 5 clones got into a fight with Hedon, but were no match. However, Naro didn't really think they would make a difference anyways. One of the remaining clones jumped up and swung down with a kunai in a stabbing motion, but was intercepted by several of Kuzu's webs, piercing his body in midair. 2 more clones came from his side and he charged 2 of his masks. Futon, Atsugai, Kaden, Zukoku. The 2 clones were destroyed instantly from the 2 separate attacks. Kakazu, behind you, Hedon called out. Kuzu turned and his eyes widened as he saw Naru lunging towards him with his jutsu in hand outstretched. I've got to dodge. He skidded backwards and the jutsu mist slowly diminishing and fading from existence. I have you now. He shot his webs forward, catching Nar off guard and piercing his body. No more playing around, boy. The blonde just looked up at his face. I wasn't playing. Nar then poofed out of existence, making Kuzu's eyes widen in shock. When did he? He heard a noise from below him and suddenly saw another Naruto shoot out from the ground with a hand outstretched in a fist. Rankin, he called out, sending an uppercut to the heart collector, knocking him high into the air. Ow, what the hell did he hit me with? Kuzu suddenly became very self-conscious as he heard the distinct bell-like screech coming from above him. Don't tell me we've been fighting as clones. Looking up, he watched in horror as Naruto descended upon his with a chakra shuriken ball in hand. Let's see ya dodge me this time. He slammed the weapon into his chest, shattering all of the glass in the cavern under the high-pitched vibrations, and Kuzu could barely get a scream of pain as he was blasted downwards at insane speeds. Futon Rasenshuriken. When he hit the floor, the chakra shuriken ball expanded, engulfing his entire body in a miniature tornado of wind needles that kept slashing at the cells of his body. He screamed in pain as every nucleus in his body was destroyed under the barrage until finally it stopped, making the cavern go silent. Nar skidded to the stop next to Yugito and took out a kunai with an explosive tag attached to it. He threw it, cutting deep into Kuzu's body before it exploded, killing him and destroying half of his body. Kuzu's lifeless corpse hit the ground with a thud, and Hedon growled in annoyance and excitement. Well, that's something I'd never thought I'd see. Nar was panting hard, though. Damn, it should have got them both in that last attack. Now I'm completely exhausted, and I'd rather not try that again. He looked down at the hand he used to wield his jutsu. It was numb. Very numb. It looks like you're out of chakra. Hedon's smirk widened as he closed in slowly, still holding his side. I need to do something or I'm dead. No pressure. Naruto thought wryly, trying to go through his options. He didn't have any. Hedon charges without any further delay and is within a few feet of him before he is sent flying backwards by a well-placed punch to the face. He slammed into the wall, leaving a crater and numerous web-like cracks in the wall. Grandfather, Yugo called out as the rockage landed beside the 2 with Team Simui dropping down in front of the 3. Are you all right, Yugo-chan? The rockage knelt down to hug his granddaughter. They didn't hurt you, did they? That punch he just gave Hedon. I wonder whose has more force to it. His aerobicans. Nar shivered at the thought and turned his attention to the sole remaining Akatsuki member. Hedon, come with me now. A plant-like figure appeared out of the ground behind the Akatsuki member. Hedon growled and then glared at the group. I'll get you for this. BRZ. Zetsu pulled him into his little void with him. Team Simui unsheathed their swords and carved up the entire side of the cavern the 2 had been on. When the dust cleared, it was clear that both of them were gone, and Naruto finally let out a sigh of relief, only to WSE in pain now that his arm was no longer numb. Well, that's what I get for using a jutsu. I haven't field tested, the ex-Konohan grumbled, clutching his arm. Yujito saw this and grabbed his hand, and before he could protest, she started using her medic jutsu on it. You hadn't even field tested that jutsu. Then what the hell were you think of using it for? Are you trying to kill yourself? He winced as she worked. Well, the jutsu still isn't finished, and clearly it still has a few flaws in it. Not finished. She gulped and looked up at him with wide eyes. That jutsu of yours destroyed the nucleus of nearly every cell in your arm. Nar grinned sheepishly at that. Well, you should see the other guy. She hit him on the head. Hey, what was that for? You reckless idiot. If you use that jutsu like that, you will destroy your chakra pathways and won't be able to use chakra anymore. She beered him. Is that any way to talk to the guy that saved your pretty little? He shot back, causing her to go red in the face. While this was going on, Team Simui were trying their best not to laugh. The Rockage coughed, catching their attention. Not that I mind you both bickering like an old married couple. Yugito glared at him. I think we should take this somewhere a little more private. Teams of Kumo nins were dropping into the cavern now, most likely to assist in damage control, among other things. It's going to be one of those days. Is my life ever normal? Were Naruto's thoughts as he was involuntarily brought with them towards the Rockage Tower. Lightning Country. Kumo Rockage's office. All right. One of my ton has told me you wish to stop here tonight. The Rockage asked, sitting down in his seat. Yeah, I'm actually just passing through on my way to Water Country. Naruto explained. The aged Kage raised an eyebrow at that. That's a strange place for a Jingury to go. Usually Jinguryiki are treated worse there than bloodlines. Yeah, well, I'm just passing through there as well, he told the truth, or at least most of it. But there's nothing past Water Country but ocean. It's the edge of the continent. The Rockage scanned over him for a second. You're planning to leave the continent. In a manner of speaking, it wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth either. The Rockage eyed him a bit more before nodding, knowing the boy wouldn't tell him his destination. The place past Water Country is Whirlpool. Nah, couldn't be. That country has been destroyed, so there's no reason for a child to go there unless. Shaking himself from his thoughts, he nodded his head. All right, you can stay in the village tonight, but you must be on your way noon tomorrow. Understood. Yes, Raikage-sama. Jiraiya had pummeled manners into his head when talking to leaders, especially shinobi village leaders. Good. Now, moving on. According to my spies in Kona, you are a genin. Why? The Rockage couldn't seem to wrap his head around that bit of information. You used your spies to get information on me. Nar was a bit surprised at that. After all, besides Kalobi, there wasn't really anything special about him, right? Yes. Now, to answer the question, how can a genin stressed it a bit who without using his Bage's power take on 2S-ranked criminals and kill one of them while delaying the other until reinforcements arrived? The Rockage deadpanned. That shouldn't be possible even for a Genturiki. Nar looked a bit nervous at that. Well, I haven't really gotten around to taking the Chunin exams again. If the Chunin exam was the only way for a ninja to become Chunin, most of the villages would be filled almost entirely of genin. The aged Kage chuckled. Why haven't you gotten a field promotion yet? Field promotion? Nar asked, confused. When a ninja does missions above their regular grade, they are promoted when they do enough of them or if they're especially high-ranked missions. The Rockage explained, my granddaughter is one such individual. She took an extremely dangerous S-rank mission and was promoted for it instead of showcasing her to the elemental countries at the exams and probably painting a bigger bull's eye on her than what she has now. So, you're saying I could have been promoted at any time? I've been doing high-level missions a lot over the years. The blonde looked saddened at that and asked mentally, did they not trust me? I think I know the reason you weren't promoted. You weren't liked in Kona even by Jingariki standards, were you? When Nar didn't answer, he continued. They probably didn't want you to become a Tunin, preferring to keep you as a genin. Naruto's voice was barely a whisper. Yeah, I think you're right. The Rockage's lips shifted into a grin. Well, technically you did just do an S-ranked mission to protect my granddaughter from two S-class criminals. Since I'm a Kage, I could promote you to any rank you wished. Nar looked up at him wide-eyed and his grin widened. I understand you have a summoning contract with the Kitsum. Nar nodded with a gulp, trusting his throat. Since you are no longer a shinobi of any village, I cannot promote you to any of the standard ranks. What I can do is instate you with Sen statues like Jiraiya Dono and Hokage Dono. You are a Sen now. You answer to no one and can travel anywhere you wish without worrying about inference from anyone besides Konoha. What, you don't want it? The Rockage asked in humor. Damn right I want it. Whatever manners he had for high authority figures had just been thrown out of the window when that offer was made. Congratulations, Kitsun-sen. The Rockage almost laughed at his dumbfounded expression. I don't know what to say. Nar looked between overjoyed and completely shocked. Not used to rewards, are ya, kid? The aged Kage asked sadly before he smiled again. Think of it as a thank you for saving my granddaughter. Yes, sir. Nar nodded in thanks and asked. Will that be all, Rockage-sama? The Rockage simply looked at him for a few long moments before nodding. That will be all, Uzumaki Naruto. By your leave. The blonde stood and nodded before making his way to the office door. Wait. The blonde stopped and turned when he heard the Rockage spoke. Before you go, may I ask you one thing? Nar nodded curiously. What is it? Are you by any chance related to Uzumaki Kusha? Naruto's eyes widened at that. There's another Uzumaki, but I thought it was just a name the Sandaime Hokage made up. Nar narrowed his eyes. Who is she? Where is she? She was confirmed to have been in Konoha during the Kalobi attack and died in childbirth, which is why I asked if you had any relation to her. You also act like her, a lot like her. The Rockage explained. If I had to guess, she would be your mother. You knew her. At his question, the aged Kage nodded in reply. Yes, she was the last Uzukage of Usuzuker no Sadto deep in Whirlpool Country. Despite not being an official Kage, like the others, there were still very few who would trifle with her. Naruto's eyes widened at that. Uekaker no Sad was Kyobi no Kitsun's first target before attacking Fire Country. I'm not really sure how it got past Water and Lightning Country without us knowing about it though. Wait, Kyobi attacked Whirlpool Country first? Nar asked confused. Why, you're its Ginuriki. Why don't you ask him? The Rockage asked. Furball. No answer. Kaylee. Still nothing. He's not answering. Anyway, we should be able to do a DNA match between you and her. Though I have a pretty good guess who your father is as well. The aged Kage spoke knowingly. Of course those two did marry. She just didn't take his last name to protect herself from his enemies. This might hold true for young Naruto-kun as well. He pressed the bottom on the intercom and spoke. Yugito-chan, are you still in the lounge? Yes, grandfather. Why? Came her reply. I want you to do a DNA test on Naruto-kun here and match it up to anyone on file. The Rockage may have phrased it as a request, but everyone knew it was an order. Isn't having people's DNA on file a security risk? I mean that bastard Orochimaru is a prime example, Naruto pointed out. The Rockage nodded at him. It would be if the DNA was not mostly sealed away, similar to a blood seal, which requires a family member's blood to deactivate the seal. Nar thought on it for a few minutes before he nodded in understanding. I get it. Then follow me, Kitsun-senan, and well get this over with. The Rockage stood and passed him, exiting through the door. Nar followed and asked, if this Kusha turns out to be my mother, then who would be my father? The Rockage just smirked at him. Why, her husband Namikaze Minato, of course. Where have I heard that name? Beef what? Lightning Country. Kumo Hospital. You have got to be kidding me. Nar shook his head. No jokes. The tests came back positive, Yugito informed him in irritation. I know I didn't believe it either, but you are the son of the Nadim UK and Yandai Mihakage Uzumaki Kusha and Namikaze Minato. Results don't lie. But it can't be true. Naruto clenched his fists. Kid, have you taken a look in the mirror? You look like a teenage Minato if you take off your hit eye. The Rockage commented. I had my suspicions when I first saw you, especially with the name Uzumaki. This would also explain why you're heading to Whirlpool. How did you? Because the only country beyond water country is Whirlpool. The Rockage cut in. Whether you like it or not is up to you now, but most of Kumo knows who you are now, and it will only be a matter of time before news about you starts to circulate around all of the elemental countries all the way back to Konoha. The aged Cage added at the last second, knowingly. And I knew your father before I became the Rockage. He wouldn't have grabbed a random child from the hospital to stop the Kyobi, so he'd only use his own son. I know that, but Nar trailed off only to be hit over the head by Yugo. Hey, what was that for? You were going all emo on us. He loved you so much he gave you a weapon to defend yourself with since he was leaving you alone. Yugito said almost as a shout. You can't tell me you wouldn't do the same if your roles were reversed, because I sure as hell would. She looked away. My father died sealing Nibi in me because he knew that to survive as my parents' child, I would need its power. He didn't need to look to know that she was crying slightly. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Nar averted his eyes sadly. You're right. I'd probably do the same thing, but that doesn't make it right. When Yugito didn't say anything, the Rockage spoke up. You'll be staying in my mansion for the night. I trust you have no objections. Nar shook his head and sighed and looked down at his bandaged hand. I still need to get stronger, though. Lightning Country. Kumo Rockage's mansion. Kit. Kyobi's voice sounded in his mind. Nar groaned and rolled over in bed. Kit. What? Caillou, can't it wait? I'm trying to sleep here, you know. The blonde growled in thought. Take a look through your memories of your battle against that sensei of yours when you used 4 of my tails. The fox told him. And why? Nar asked with half-lidded eyes. You'll find it interesting. Caillou responded and started playing the memories of the battle in his mind. It was then that Naruto woke up fully as he saw the way Jiraiya had fought him. He was fighting all out. What is that? He asked out loud, looking through a particular memory. That is the Toad Sage mode, only accessible to the sages of the summoned toads. The monstrous fox let a grin cross his face. All summoned races have their own versions of Sage mode. The snakes turn their summoners into giant snakes. The slugs enhance their summoners' healing factor by over 10,000%, and the toads increase their summoners' raw strength 100-fold. Long story short, the kitsune are no exception. You can make me a fox Sage mode? Nar asked in confusion. I thought that would be something like a tailed shroud. In a manner of speaking, it would still be different from that pervert Sage mode in that it won't have any jutsu or frog catus, which are even, I have to admit, extremely deadly to you lower life forms, Kyobi explained. Hey, anyway, the Fox Sage mode would instead give you enormous amounts of chakra, and I mean enormous in a fraction of my physical strength, the fox finished. Great. No cool jutsus, but instead I get a fancy new form. Just great, Nar grumbled for a second before getting up from his bed. He opened the nearby cabinet where he had put his jumpsuit. Once he got dressed, he made his way for the door only to stop when he saw it. There hanging from the door was a long red trench coat with the bottom outlined with black flames. And on the back of it was the image of a fox with 9 tails over the image of a recent and emblazed over that was the kanji fur fox sage which he nearly fainted from seeing. He let a rice smile form on his lips and put on the coat before moving towards the mirror. It looks like a custom job. It was probably the Raikage Nardo and took off his hidai letting his hair fall out of place. I really do look like Dad, don't I? He smiled and shook his head and looked down at his hidai with the Konoha symbol on it. Looking at it, he couldn't help but see his friends, all the family he had ever known. He clenched it in his hand and put it away before exiting the room, making his way towards the training grounds behind the mansion. Once there, he followed Caleb's explanations on and continued to practice until a certain someone decided to interrupt him. "What are you doing, brat?" Yuo asked from her position on one of the nearby training posts. "Don't call me a brat. I'm the same age as you," Nar growled back. She chuckled at him and nodded. "True, but you're far too immature for your age." He was about to say something but stopped himself remembering her tears yesterday. "What is it?" He shook his head. "Never mind." He then gestured for her to come over. "You want to join me? I never did like training alone." Yugo nodded silently and approached him. "Now I've got to ask, has Nibi ever offered you a summoning contract with the Nekomata?" Yugo nodded at that. "Yes, but I've never signed it." "Why? Why don't you do that first and I'll show you what I have in mind?" Naruto was grinning like a fox. Unbeknownst to them, the Raikage watched from one of the mansion's windows. His father at his side. They watched as the 2 blondes below were practicing gathering natural chakra and infusing it into their very own souls to enter what the Raikage knew as a sage mode only for summoners who have passed all of the trials of the summoned clan. In this case, the trial for them both was simply living as a Genturiki. He knew that they weren't anymore, though. Caillou and Nibi returned to the summon realm upon the signing of each contract, though it appeared their former hosts were still able to communicate with them. "You seem troubled, brother," Kurabi observed. Even though the known bad rapper was carefree most of the time, he had always been reserved when his grandniece and fellow Kumo Ginuriki was plaguing his brother's thoughts. "You keep staring at the boy and Yugo-chan." The Raikage snorted. "I don't know what you mean. Akatsuki will try again and next time the Namikaze boy will not be there to save her," spoke the proclaimed guardian of Kumo in a saddened tone unexpected from him. The Raikage looked over at his brother and nodded. "Yes, but she would be ready next time." "Number she won't. She's nowhere near ready for a bunch of S-class criminals after her head." Kurabi told him she'd surely be captured if she remains here. "Yes, but would it be safer to send her with the boy? He's head into water country and then onto Whirlpool. Do I have to remind you why that territory is so dangerous?" asked the aged Cage with cold eyes. Kurabi closed his eyes and shook his head. "If she remains here, she will surely be captured and killed by Akatsuki. But if she goes with the boy, she might have a chance to live through these harsh times." The Raikage merely stared at him before nodding slowly, agreeing with his brother. "Yes, she would be safer if she were constantly on the move and one step ahead of Akatsuki." Kurabi smiled, slipping back into his carefree nature. "Don't worry so much, bro. Yugo-chan will be all right. Yo, would you not start with the rapping at a time like this?" the aged Cage asked, annoyed. Before the Hibi Ginuriki could respond, the two felt a great pressure in the air and looked down at the 2 outside. They looked different. Nar and Yugo stood with their hands held in a seal. The pupils in their blue narrowed into vertical slits. Then it was gone. Their eyes suddenly shifted out of existence, returning the 2 teenagers to normal, if that were even a word to describe ninja. It was then that the Raikage made his decision. Rain Country aimed Akatsuki headquarters. So, the Kyobi Ginuriki has fled Konoha. Dara grinned. Can I go after him? It will be a blast, so to speak. Hedon glared at the bomber. You wouldn't stand a chance against him. He took out 3 of Kuzu's hearts in one attack. The same guy that reattached your arm after yours was blown off fighting the Eyed Wonder. You make him sound scarier than he really is, Kisame said with a laugh. He's nothing but a brat. A lucky brat, but still a brat. That may be, but he isn't a normal Jingury like the others, and now that he's traveling with the Nibi Jingariki, he will be hard to capture, Zetsu informed. From what I can tell, they're heading towards the old whirlpool country beyond water country. Not sure why. Pain stepped out from the shadows and spoke, ending the debate. Enough of this. The time grows near and those 2 are needed. Itachi Kizum, you 2 are to intercept them and capture them. Yes, Leader Sama, the 2 Akatsuki members spoke in unison. Fire Country. Konoha Hokage's office. You're sure about this? Sununade asked, staring wide-eyed at the man she knew as her former teammate. Currently, the other members of the Nar retrieval team plus Karnai were assembled in the room. Most felt saddened and in some cases humiliated by the fact that Nar was able to escape them and make it look easy while doing it. Kakashi himself couldn't help but feel like he had neglected his former student in favor of his other now traitorous student. He had hoped to make it up to Naruto with some training one-on-one, but instead the blonde had left and gotten far stronger than Kakashi would have expected, even with shadow clones. The last engagement just proved it. Anyway, back to the situation at hand. My spies confirmed it. He took on 2 S-class new cannon from Akatsuki and killed one before reinforcements arrived and drove the other one off. All the while protecting the Rokage's granddaughter. Jiraiya let a grin slip across his face. He's even went further with the Rasen, completely surpassing myself, Kakashi, and the Yandai in the field of chakra and elemental manipulation, though the jutsu doesn't appear to be finished just yet. He killed an S-class Nuin in one attack. Sununade asked in disbelief, hearing the retrieval team begin to whisper to each other. It gets better. Apparently, as a reward, the Rokage proclaimed him as a Kitsen-sen along with his granddaughter and Naruto's new traveling companion, the Nico Sinan. The Gamma Sinan let what he had said sink into the group. Even the Uchiha has yet to be classified as Shrank, and it appears the brat already has quite a reputation in the ninja world, especially since he invented an S-ranked space time jutsu on par with Minato's Horizon no Jutsu, though it appears to be different but still give off something reminiscent of a yellow flash when used. What the Hokage gritted out what the hell, he trained with Jera for 3 years and there was barely any improvement other than Kyobi's chakra, and now did you train him at all in his training trip or something? Because from what you're telling me the kid has done more in a few weeks than he has grown stronger in the past 3 years. Growled out at him. He simply stared at her before answering. He needed something to fall back on, so we worked on Kaiyu's power. In retrospect, it was the wrong choice, but it doesn't matter anymore, Jiraiya answered. Great, Tsunade muttered, leaning back with a sigh. From what I hear, he's being called quite a few names in the bingo books of other villages. Hella's bingo book states him as having flea on-site status, being nicknamed the God of Flash and Kiri. I don't know why, but they consider him an army, not a man. Everyone was shocked to know he had become so famous away from Konoha and were even more shocked by what they learned next. I also know where he's going. Sununade bolted up from her seat. Where? If we know where he's going, we may be able to catch him. The Gamma shook his head. He's heading to Whirlpool Country. Both Sununade and Kakashi froze at that. What did you say? The Hokage stuttered, gulping. His destination is Whirlpool Country. Jiraiya reiterated. Whirlpool Country. Where's that? Asuma asked, not understanding the place's significance. I've never heard of it. Naruto, it's his mother's homeland and where Kyobi no Kitsun was first spotted before it attacked Konoha. Kakashi answered, seeing everyone's eyes widen, especially the adults in the room. There's more. Nar has found out why he was chosen as Kyobi's Jinchuriki. The room suddenly went deathly quiet. Nobody moved, and Kakashi were staring at him in horror. What do you mean? Sakura was the one who asked. The Yandai Hokage, Namikaze. Minato was a man of honor. He wouldn't grab a random child and use him to defeat a demon knowing the life the boy would lead. Not when his pregnant wife went into labor mere moments before Kyobi attacked. Jiraiya spoke in utter serious, making most of the room's occupants go pale. In the next 24 hours, the Rockage will let the world know that the only son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kusha has been banished from Konoha for simply being a Jinchuriki. His full name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. He's the son of the Yandai Hokage and the Nadim Usuzuke. Sununade finished solemnly, shaking in fear. After a few minutes of silence, Ka said barely above a whisper, "My God, what have we done?" Sound Country. Oto Base Delta 5. Uchiha Sasaki. The supposed last Uchiha in existence was not in a good mood. No, he was definitely in a foul mood after hearing that Nar, the Dabi, the dead last, the one he thought of as beneath him, had surpassed him yet again by gaining S-ranked status in the bingo book and taking down an Akatsuki member before him. What's more, the Dobi had apparently taken him down with just one attack. Something Sasaki was angered beyond measure at knowing none of his jutsu could do the amount of physical and area damage that Naruto's jutsu could do, judging from the report. Naturally, Orochimaru was also pissed at this. A one-shot kill jutsu was something he'd always strived to learn, and yet he could never find one. Now he had found it. But it was in the hands of someone he had considered a failure. Sasaki Kabuto. Orochimaru rasped. "Find that boy and bring him to me." Kabuto nodded, but Sasaki didn't comment. "That jutsu will be mine. Dabi, I knew I should have killed you while I had the chance." The Uchi thought darkly. "Now I will. Your life has been spared on a whim twice already. It shall not happen a third time." Water Country Beach. Nar had set off towards Water Country with his new traveling companion. Yugo and the girl's grandfather had given him 2 scrolls for jutsu he thought the two could use. It took a full day to get down the mountain and 3 more days of continuous travel to get to the border, which was a river separating the two countries. Yu-Gi-Oh now sported a dark purple cloak with the image of a cat with 2 tails over a red flame-covered sword emblazoned on its back, and over that was the kanji for cat sage. The two had snuck into Water Country, making sure to avoid the patrols, something Nar knew how to do quite well considering his former career as a prankster. The two had stopped for a night in a nearby village but hurriedly left when a team of Kiri Chunin had appeared walking through the streets. The team hadn't spotted them, but they didn't want to risk it and so proceeded at full speed towards the ocean at the other side of the country. Of course, they were mostly riding Sakino the entire way there. "We're almost there," the fox spoke, notifying the two riding on her back as they traveled through the woods. "I've never seen the ocean before," Yugito muttered. "I've only saw it a few times, mostly on missions." Nar commented from behind her. "It's one of the few things I actually find beautiful." The now proclaimed no Sennin didn't say anything to that as Sakino finally came to a stop. Looking forward, she saw they were standing on a hill at the edge of the forest, and in front of them were the large open waters of the sea. Since it was midday, the sun was high in the sky, casting its glow across the water, making it appear a bright blue. The two then dismounted the fox, taking a few steps in front of her. "Thanks for the ride, Sakino-chan. Say hello to your father for me," Nar said, casting a look back. I'll do that. Until next time, Narutkin Yugo-chan. With that, the fox promptly disappeared in a poof of smoke. Well, what are we waiting for? The Kumo nin asked, walking down the hill towards the beach with Naruto following close behind. In the trees just behind them appeared the remnants of the Konoha 11, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Asuma, and Guy. There he is, and it looks like his new partner is with him, Lee said quietly as to not give away their position. Partner is right. She smells like a cat yet she has the lingering smell of a fox. Ha informed them. Jiraiya cracked a smile. You know, if the situation weren't so serious, I'd be proud of him for getting a girl, especially a blonde. Why a blonde? Kakashi asked, noticing the slightly angry looks on Sakura and Hinata's faces. Because blondes have more fun, Jiraiya told him before he settled into a neutral expression. Jokes aside, there's something that's scaring me at the moment. And what's that? The copy nin asked, getting curious looks from the group, having never seen the toad hermit look so serious. That girl, she looks like a teenage Tsunade. The Gamma Sinan stated with his eyes glued to the two forms below. Get ready to move out. A few feet away, Sasaki and Kabuto arrived, only seeing Nar and Yugito down below walking down the beach towards the ocean. This is our chance. We should catch them by surprise. Kabuto suggested caution. Humph, like that Dabi stands a chance against me. Sasaki said, insulted at the fact that the older of the two would suggest such a thing, and there's no way a girl can face my power. You arrogant little fool. Underestimating your enemy is a sure way to get yourself killed. Stopping. Nar shot a look over at his companion and asked, you do realize we're being watched, right? Up in the tree, the two groups tensed and narrowed their eyes, preparing to strike when they heard that. Yugito nodded and replied happily, yeah, they're not very good. Turning his head toward the end of the beach, Naro spoke barely above a whisper, but everyone heard it. Well, are you going to come out yet, Akatsuki? Suddenly, two figures rose up from the sand-covered ground. Hello, Itachi. Kiss. Hey, brat. Long time no see. The sharp man grinned, shouldering his sword. Itachi looked up, revealing his sharing eyes. I'm afraid the both of you will have to come with us. Naruto-kun. Water country, seaside beach. The atmosphere in the area suddenly felt heavier. Hey brat, who's your girlfriend? Kisame asked, pointing at the no-sen. She's not my girlfriend. Nar groaned. We're supposed to bring you in, Naruto-kun. Itachi spoke in monotone, but he seemed bored. I can tell you right now that is not going to happen, Nar said simply with a wide smile. Itachi sighed at that. All right, then, I guess we have to do this the hard way. You mean the fun way? Nar and Kisame spoke at the same time. Yugito looks over at the Kiri Nukenin and asks Naruto, can I have fish cakes for dinner? Only if you cook them yourself, the blonde replied. Kisame laughed. So the girls got spunk. You don't do anything half-ass asked, do you brat? Civilian girls are way too plain. That was apparently the wrong thing to say. Then again, I always did like the girls with larger chakra reserves, if you know what I mean. Yugito whacked him over the head. Henty, it appears you have inherited your mother's inability to keep her mouth closed. Itachi crumbled, shaking his head. Are we going to start already? I'm getting bored. Of course, it was Kisame that said this. Don't underestimate us, Nar told him. If you do, you won't last long. This will be fun, the swordsman said, readying his sword. There was a booming sound as Yugo shot forward, indicating she had crossed the sound barrier. Her target was Kisame. The swordsman grinned and moved to intercept with his sword at his side. She flew at Kisame, as in literally flew. A stream of jet blue flames were erupting from her feet, propelling her in a single direction. If you know what rocket boots are, think that, but with fire elemental manipulation. Come here, girlie. Kisame stopped and brought up his sword. Kazuki. The Nico Sinan shouted, and her right arm was covered in superheated flames just before she was in front of him. There was a loud clang as her fire-covered arm clashed with the swordsman's blade. Not bad. The new cannon smirked and pulled back just to launch forward again. Yugito parried, and suddenly her other arm was covered in flames as well. I'm better than you think. Sue and Kazuki. While this was going on, Naruto appeared behind Itachi in a flash of yellow. Shuna no Jutsu. Itachi barely registered the movement until the last moment and promptly dodged the next strike. He's faster than before. The Uchiha murderer traded blows while moving backwards, but was surprised to feel a painful stinging sensation after even a graze from Naruto's attack. What is that? Some form of enjutsu. It's dangerous to fight him at close range. Skidding away, he started making hand seals before inhaling a large breath. Kaden Guakaku no Jutsu. A large ball of fire was exhaled from his mouth and accelerated towards Naruto said. Blonde merely took the hit dead center. Is that the best you got? The Kitsen Sinan held out his arm and the flames were blown out by a blast of wind. At least try and make me break a sweat. Itachi let an amused smirk cross his face. Very well. His sharing shifted into its true form. The Mangeo sharing. Look into my eyes. Naruto-kun. Unfortunately, that's exactly what our hero did. Tsukuyomi. Naruto froze suddenly, finding himself in a distorted world where the colors were inverted. I am not going to play games with you. Itachi. In the real world, there was an echoing pulse as a wave of pure chakra shot out, formed Naruto's body and continued for about 10 feet before dissipating. Chakra Nami. Itachi narrowed his eyes as he saw Naruto raise his head towards him and glared. You didn't really think I wouldn't have developed a counter to genjutsu since our last battle? The older Uchiha smirked. I had my hopes. In the trees above the beach, the retrieval team and Odo team watched in shocked silence. Jiraiya and Kakashi, especially knowing the extents of Tsukuyomi. They couldn't believe their eyes at the level the four were fighting at. Sasaki was seething in rage since even with his Sharingan was activated, he couldn't copy any of the four's jutsu. They weren't using hand seals to use their jutsu. They just executed them perfectly without much effort. And so the Sharingan wasn't able to copy them. The most frustrating part for the young though was the fact that even after everything that had happened and all the training he had had, the Dabi was still Itachi's objective. Oh, he knew it was because of Kaiu, but the fact that the Dabi was suddenly a lot stronger than their last battle and appeared to match Itachi at every turn, something he doubted even himself could do just yet. Damn you, you've surpassed me again. Sasaki snarled at the thought, though outwardly he kept a calm face. Kabuto, on the other hand, merely watched in fear as the four below exchanged blows. This isn't the Naruto-kun we faced at the Heaven and Earth Bridge. He's equal with Itachi when even Orochimaru-sama wasn't, and he's not even using Kyobi's chakra. Kame break off. Itachi ordered, getting a nod from his partner. As the swordsman broke away from his fight, Itachi turned his powerful eyes on the teenage girl Amaterasu. Black flames of death shot out towards her at insane speed. Got to stop it, Shanpo. No jutsu. In a flash of yellow, Naruto appeared at her side and raised his hand. Futon Ron. A large plate in the image of a spiral made out of pure chakra and wind materialized to protect the two from harm. The flames hit dead center and Kisame smirked. This is getting interesting. That defensive jutsu's original purpose must have been to deflect Amaterasu. Itachi mused, watching as the flames died down, revealing Naruto and Yugo unharmed. You're going to have to do better than that, Yugito grinned. Sage mode activated. The ground shook as both Naruto and Yugito shifted into their respective forms, with the sand under them suddenly shifting slightly with a loud roar. Their now slitted eyes held no fear of the two, and Kizum couldn't help but grin even as a shock wave washed over the area, snuffing out the black flames of Amaterasu. Finally getting serious about time brought. The audience were shocked when Kisame said that Kage Bunch no Jutsu 2 clones appeared at the Kitsen-sen's side. 2 clones aren't going to do anything against them, thought everyone in the audience, but the 2 Akatsuki members' faces had suddenly gotten serious. Yugito held up her hand to the sky, and suddenly the temperature in the area had increased drastically, forming dark clouds of thunder above them. Her hand was suddenly engulfed in fire once more, but this one was a lot bigger and gave off a lot more heat than the previous stage. Nar held out his hand, and the clones start pouring in their chakra and wind elemental power. A bell-like screech echoed through the area as the ball of chakra in his hand suddenly formed 4 small wind blades around its surface. Holding the jutsu up, the wind blade expanded, taking the shape of a large shuriken. "That cannot be good for my health," Kisame commented, tensing. "So these are the Kitsen and Nico Sinan," Itachi thought, narrowed his eyes. "As long as we can dodge those jutsu, we'll be okay." Hedon did say they were close-range jutsu. Yes, that's what he and Kisame would do. Dodge them both and then move in for the kill. Sadly, that wasn't meant to happen. Futon. Nar began not taking his eyes off of Itachi. Twisting his body, he threw the jutsu like he would a regular shuriken. Renshuriken Kaden. Yugito shot her flame-covered hand out like she would a punch. Da Kazuki. The blade of fire shot out like a lance in a compressed beam of superheated magma. "They threw them," Heya exclaimed. Everyone's eyes widened upon seeing the powerful jutsu being sent at the Akatsuki duo. How can they use something so condensed and, in the Rasengan's case, quick-spinning chakra at that range? It shouldn't be possible. The amount of concentration should be too much for anyone to handle. Kakashi watched in pure shock, feeling rather than seeing such powerful attacks being used with those 2 jutsu. "I don't think they can lose." Jiraiya watched silently. "Good luck, Nar. Dodge," Hisame shouted, seeing the danger, and tried to jump away, narrowly, missing the edge of the fire blade that had come at him. He rolled away, feeling an intense blast of heat wash over him as he saw the ground where he stood a moment ago turn to glass under the extreme temperature. Well, Itachi saw the chakra shuriken come closer and closer at an alarming speed. "I must act quickly. Something like that would kill even me." As he dodged, he made a single shadow clone poof into existence. "I hope this works." The clone grabbed him and threw him away from the shuriken just as it passed within a few feet of the clone. "This will be close." The chakra shuriken exploded in a large ball of tornado of wind, destroying the clone and everything else within its 20 meters radius. Incredible. Itachi slammed into the hardened sand and rolled back to his feet and continued running, feeling the wind from the tornado sphere trying to pull him back. "It's trying to pull me in." The jutsu suddenly exploded in a repulsion of wind, throwing Itachi 10 feet before he finally came to a stop, panting slightly. Now I see how Kuzu was defeated. Of course, it would take something like that to bring him down. Nar just grinned as he replied, "You dodged it. I shouldn't really be surprised." The 2 shadow clones beside him suddenly started charging another jutsu. "But I doubt you can dodge me forever. Eventually, I'll get you. Who wants fish cakes?" Kisame watched in frustration as Yuto's arm was engulfed in flames once more. "Kaden Dai. Kazuki." The flames shot out in a condensed stream of heat. "Not again." The mist swordsman growled, performing a series of hand seals. Suiden Debakufu no Jutsu. A large wave of water rose from the sea and met the blade of fire halfway, canceling each other out. That was too close." The Kum-Nin narrowed her eyes at the shark man. He used a water jutsu to neutralize it. Of course, Since fire is weak against water-based attacks, a lower-level water jutsu would be able to stand up to a higher-level fire jutsu. Futon recent Naruto threw another attack at Itachi, hoping to catch him this time. This time, however, Itachi was ready for it. Amaterasu. A series of black flames shot out from the Uchiha's eyes and intercepted the incoming jutsu, causing it to detonate prematurely in a vacuum of wind and flames. Both of them were blown away from each other, breathing hard. I can't keep this up for much longer. He may not be as strong as me or have as much experience, but he's holding his own with stamina alone. His had known this, too. And knowing that at long ranges his opponent was deadly, he shot towards Yugo at full speed, bringing his sword to bear on her. She ducked under the swing only to roll out of the way as he brought the blade down on her, blowing up the sand as it touched the ground. The Nico Sinan parried another swing with her flame-covered arm and knocked him away. Raichu, she shouted, hurling a ball of lightning at the Kiri Nuin. They seemed to be evenly matched. Kakashi observed. He surpassed me. Are you kidding? I think he's almost surpassed me when I was in my prime. Jiraiya couldn't help but grin at seeing his student progress this far in such a short amount of time. I couldn't be prouder. Should we jump in now? Ha asked, slightly fearful, seeing the devastating jutsu the two sides were throwing around. Do you want to be caught in the crossfire? Shino asked him as if he were stupid. After a few moments of silence, it was clear there wasn't going to be an answer. The ball of lightning hit Kisame dead center in the chest and lightning exploded in all directions. Haha, I gotcha. Kiss, however, just grinned before he turned to water dropping to the sand-covered ground. What? She felt a presence behind her and turned swiftly, but it was already too late. Suro, no jutsu. Before she could react, Yugito was encased in a ball of moving water with Kisame standing beside it, holding it with his hand. I have you now, little girl. Skidding to a stop, both Nar and Itachi caught a quick glance at their partners. It appears your partner has been caught. Narutkin. Surrender now and you shall not be harmed. The Uchiha told him. He was surprised to hear Nar chuckle in response. Yeah, about that offer. I think I'll pass. And as for Yugo, she's got him right where she wants him. Itachi narrowed his eyes only for it to widen as Naruto appears in front of him, holding a ball of swirling chakra. Your fight is with me. Rengen. Itachi's hand was suddenly encased in electricity, and he moved to parry the attack. Chidori. Sasaki seethed in rage at seeing Itachi use his jutsu. Itachi. You copied my jutsu. Oh dear. Orochimaru-sama isn't going to like this at all. Kabuto watched in disgust. You can't escape now, little girl. The swordsman held up his free hand holding his sword. Any last words? Yeah, I got two for you. Chidori Nagashi. Yugito's body was suddenly engulfed in electricity, shocking the water and by proxy Kisame himself. The Mistenin let out a yelp of pain as he was blown back with both of them panting hard. I got the idea from one of Naruto's stories he told me about. He like it. You little _ Kiss growled trying to catch his breath. Go yourself was all Yugo said while channeling more chakra to her arm forming a blade of flames to encase it. There's not enough time to use Suiden. Deku no jutsu. Guess I've got to dodge instead. Kisame jumped high into the air, hoping to dodge the jutsu he knew was coming. Kaden Dai Kazuki. The no Sinan yelled, unleashing her jutsu at the swordsman. A water clone suddenly appeared at his side and pulled him out of the line of fire as it shot past him heading up into the sky above. Touching back down, he grinned. You missed, he said simply. Who says I was aiming for you? Yugito asked innocently, causing the swordsman to narrow his eyes at her. The sky suddenly darkened above them with large thunder clouds forming. Itachi skidded to a halt, not too far away, and with wide eyes looked up at the sky and then at Kism. Needing to act fast, he moved towards his partner, having an idea of what was coming. Kiss, get down. The swordsman looked confused before he was tackled to the floor. Susanoo, Raiden, Kirin. Up in the trees, the Konoha retrieval team were having a hard time remaining standing after a large dog-like monster made of lightning shot down from the sky and hit the beach with a thunderous blast, sending massive amounts of heat and shock waves for 100 feet, almost blowing them away even at the range they were at. What the hell was that? Heya asked in fear at seeing such a monstrous jutsu. Damn kid, you sure know how to pick them. Jiraiya gulped, remembering when he first saw his super strength. Though I think you have a mother complex, he let a perverted grin cross his face. Not too far away, Sasaki clenched his fists in anger. That cloud _ that is my jutsu. Mine. It's bad enough I'm being upstaged by the Dobi, but now this no-name _ even if I did copy the jutsu from Akumo Nin, they should know that such power belongs to me. An Uchiha note, superiority complex in its finest. Kabuto, on the other hand, it would be foolish to take them without reinforcement. He seemed particularly annoyed, though should the opportunity present itself, we could capture the two. Note to self, don't get on her bad side, Nar thought with a sweat drop. Hearing a groan from the crater, that was all that was left. He blew away the smoke using a jutsu he had gotten from the rockage before they left Kumo Futon Dappa. After the smoke and dust was cleared, both Akatsuki members were clearly seen. Are you two still alive? He heard a groan in response. Oh, good. You're still alive. That means we can finish this. As the two Akatsuki members staggered to their feet, they suddenly went on edge when they heard the distinctive bell-like screech. Futon Recentrican. They looked up to see the jutsu sailing towards them, spinning frantically as it moved. Kiss, we leave, Itachi ordered and his partner nodded. The two dived into the ocean, disappearing under the water as Naruto's jutsu expanded upon contact in a ball of wind and water before finally exploding with great force. Touching down beside him, Yugito shot him a questionable look only for him to shake his head in reply. The message was clear. They got away. Let them go, Nar told her. We're in no shape to pursue them anyways. We used our jutsus at their strongest level 3 times each, so we can't hold our sage modes much longer. So what now? The Nico Sinan asked, trying to catch her breath. Kuchio's no jutsu. Hai no ama. Tatsu no Gama. Following Naruto's exclamation were 2 puffs of smoke signifying a summoning. Nar, huh, what the hell? Why did you wait until now to summon us? We've been worried, you idiot. Gamakichi shouted, getting ready to tackle him. Nar held up his hands. Sorry, I've been sort of busy. The older of the 2-toed princes was about to yell at him again when he took notice of the blonde girl beside him. Hey, Nar, who's the babe, and what is she doing with you? Yugo's eyes flashed in anger. Don't call me babe, you Arogama. There was a resounding slap as Gamakichi was sent flying with a hand mark on his face. Naruto gulped, looking at his partner in slight fear. Hey Nar, can I have some candy? Gamatsu asked in a childish tone air. Yeah, if you can give us a lift. Nar half asked, half answered. The younger toad prince nodded ocean. Sure thing, as long as I get some candy. Nar turned to the Kumo Nin and simply stared expectantly. You can't be serious, Yugito asked, not wanting to ride on a toad. Nar nodded in R.